but I'm going to go this way. And I'm going to take the tripod with me, so it'll probably fall on my head.
Hey there, welcome to SportsCenter with Jay and Dan, brought to you by McDonald's. Jay from his basement, I'm from my kitchen, because neither of us have home offices because we don't do any work at home. Hey, hope you had a great Easter. It was very different, I'm sure, for all of us. You couldn't go see friends and family, and probably what you had on the table was different than past years. I went to the supermarket to get a turkey. The lineup was too big, so I said, lasagna it is. So a new tradition started here for us. How about you, Jay?
Yeah, same thing. We did spaghetti and meatballs, so it was a very Italian pasta-centric Easter for both of us, which I think is quite fine, and I'm happy to continue that tradition. It's all about silver linings at this point, Dan, but it is great to be back on TV, and it's great to be on in the mornings again. Hope you guys enjoy the show. We're going to try to keep you entertained for the next half hour, and then many half hours after that for the foreseeable future.
Let's jump right in with everyone always says, oh, there's no news in sports going on right now. Yes, there's so much news we can't even get to most of it. So this one concerns the XFL.
Yes, the XFL, Dan, filed for bankruptcy on Monday. The big question is, how does that affect the Canadian Football League? With more, here's Rod Smith with our CFL Insider.
With more on this story, here's our football insider, Dave Naylor. Some might be tempted to say, Dave, that the XFL was ultimately undone by the global pandemic. Do you think that's necessarily the case here?
Well, I think the speed of the demise was certainly caused by the global pandemic. We know that Vince McMahon, the head of the WWE that oversees this league, was prepared. He told everyone that, hey, this league's not going to run out of money. He was prepared to see it beyond one season. It wasn't going to be like the Alliance of American Football. But in terms of whether or not his league proved that alternate professional football in the spring was viable, I mean, not really. You look at it and see their ratings went down every week, and that is without having to go up against March Madness or baseball, which would have come had the league continued. And given the history of alternative professional football in the USA, this league may have not proven that it would have been a failure anyway, but it by no means proved that it found the key to making this work.
When the XFL opened for business again, I asked you what impact that would have on the Canadian Football League. And now that it's declared bankruptcy, I ask you again, what impact does it have on the CFL?
Well, short term, not much. Even though XFL players are free to sign in the CFL, I mean, speaking to a couple of agents, they said, well, why would we do that until we know the CFL is going to play? Guys may still have hopes to get into an NFL camp, and they would take themselves off the market if they signed a CFL contract. So short term, not much. Long term, it means a lot. I mean, you go back a year and a half ago, before the AAF had played, before the XFL had played, you couldn't have a conversation with the CFL general manager without them telling you how much more difficult this was making it to recruit players. The guys were waiting on those leagues before they would sign a CFL contract. This now restores the CFL's place as the best alternative for players beyond the National Football League. And given that we've seen two leagues fold in a period of about 14 months, it seems it may be a while before we see someone try this again.
The bottom line is another spring professional football league folds. The XFL, once again, doesn't get out of its very first season. And the Alliance League went 8 weeks last year. This time the XFL only going 5 weeks. Our football insider, Dave Naylor.
So Vince McMahon is 0-2 with professional football, Dan, but the most interesting thing about this news from Monday concerning the XFL filing for bankruptcy is one of the creditors, a name that really popped out to me, Mark Trestman, owed almost $800,000 by the XFL. So, yeah, he's going to be hoping he gets that money back, but I'd be curious to see if Trestman makes his way back to Canada to coach in the CFL again.
Yeah, and we've been discussing, you and I, over text, an open letter that an XFL employee put out there saying, I don't know why people are rooting for this league to fail because it gives jobs, it gives other opportunities for players when it looked like they had none left. So I don't know if people were rooting for it. They were just maybe predicting that it wouldn't go well, and as we see, it didn't. In our time off here, we're always wondering, what are NHL players doing? Like Matthew Tkachuk, is he still in Calgary hanging out? No, he's in St. Louis, and Jermaine Franklin had a chance to speak with him.
Well, Matthew, first question is, how are you coping with this pause in the NHL season?
Well, I think I'm coping with it as well as I can right now. I think everyone's kind of doing, I don't know, I guess their own part to not really worry too much about the season right now and worry just more about keeping the world safe and keeping their community safe and their family safe. So I think that's kind of where I'm at right now. When we were allowed to leave the cities and go stay with the family, I think it was kind of a no-brainer for me, and my brother was the same way. Just want to be surrounded by family during this tough time, and I'm sure you're the same way. It's a lot easier when you have the family there, and I'm very thankful to be home right now and to be surrounded by them, and kind of making the most out of this tough time with them.
How are you guys getting along? Does anybody get on anyone's nerves a little bit more than anyone else?
No, I mean, I don't think so too much. I think Brady and I are driving my sister and my dad a little crazy right now, but my mom loves having us home. So.
I know a lot of people call your dad Walt. There were 2 rules from a story made last year, actually. It was Robert Thomas. Don't sit in his chair. Don't grab his remote. Has anybody done that? And if so, who would be brave enough to break those house rules?
Yeah, I mean, nobody really sits in his chair. That's like a sacred thing in the house, but all of us will touch the remote. We don't care too much. I just think that we're a little cautious on, I forget what day it is, but he has one day where he just watches Blue Bloods all day. I think it's on Thursdays, so you got to be careful on those days.
How are you staying in shape? Are you working out with Brady? Do you guys do it together or separate? And what would be the reasons behind either one of those?
I think right now, without throwing Brady under the bus, because I think he'd tell you this too. But I think I'm more, my mind's more, gearing up for playoffs coming around and the playoff push where, if we come back, he doesn't know if since his team's a little bit out of it, they'll come back. So I think I'm more, keeping it fresh right now, but he's still working out really hard. And we kind of have a schedule going on right now. We both have the first few weeks we're sleeping until like noon at least. So our days will get started a little bit later. But I think now we're starting to get up a little bit earlier because of golf. The golf courses are still open here, which is nice. So we've been training the body to get up a little bit earlier to get our day started. And we're lucky we have a Peloton bike here. So we take turns, going on that in the morning. Those are some of the hardest workouts I've ever done. There's a few instructors on there. I forget their names. I know a couple are like Jess, Olivia, and Kendall. They're killing us right now. So those have been tough workouts. And we do some stuff together at night. And we have like a little gym downstairs with some weights and some weight vests and some medicine balls. So we'll do a little bit of stuff together at night. But mainly it's been separate right now. But when it's nice out, which it has been pretty much every day, we're outside the whole time.
Last 20 games of the season, you were on fire. Can you talk a little bit about the way that you were playing leading into the toughest or during the toughest part of the regular season? And was that preparation for what you guys expected to be a better postseason this year?
Honestly, I don't really remember too much. It seems like it was like a year ago, but I do remember I think the one thing that sticks out is, my 2 line mates at the time, Manjit and Bax, were playing some of the best hockey I've seen them play. So it was easy for me to just go out there and do my thing. But I thought our team was trending. Like we were right there in the final 12 games and right there in the hunt and able to, you could either win the division or miss by, however many points. There's so many teams right there. So, and that's the stuff you kind of dream about and you want to be in at the beginning of the season, especially the position we put ourselves in after the first month and a half. Like that was a perfect scenario for us.
When the NHL season was put on pause, Matthew Tkachuk was on a roll. He had at least a point in 17 of their last 20 games, plus 40 penalty minutes. Now, Jay, my two takeaways from that interview with Jermaine was that Keith is a huge Blue Bloods fan, so much so he has an entire day devoted to that show. And when Matthew said that Brady's Ottawa Senators were maybe not going to make the playoffs, that's being a nice brother, considering the Sens are second last in the entire NHL.
Yeah, I'm surprised he was that nice about it. I also enjoyed his candor. That's what I love about the Tkachuks. You know, he said, yeah, we were sleeping till noon the first couple of weeks. You know, not a lot of hockey players would admit that, so I appreciate that from them. And I'm sure that Drew Doughty appreciated that, because there's no bigger fan of Matthew Tkachuk than Drew Doughty. How great would it be, Dan, to have Doughty and Tkachuk on a call together, on a Zoom call together? Doughty was on a conference call Monday. He said he's not optimistic about salvaging the NHL season.
I don't see how the season is going to return. I really don't. We have no idea when this virus is going to be over. And, you know, we're all kind of just sitting at home, you know, obviously hoping to return to the season or hope to watch the playoffs return. But, you know, we're just kind of sitting here waiting, working out, getting ready to hopefully returning at any point. So I would think the NHL or whoever would make the decision would have to make some kind of decision on that soon. And it seems like it's going to be pretty tough to resume the season or playoffs.
And, you know, you have to love someone like Drew Doughty, because it's tough to be that candid as an NHL player currently playing, Dan, and admit that the chances of the season returning this year are pretty slim. But there you have it. One of the best players in the National Hockey League basically saying he doesn't think there's a shot of this league coming back.
And he's an elder statesman now, that a player, when he speaks, everyone listens. So it's good to hear from Drew Doughty. Coming up on SportsCenter with Jan Dan, brought to you by McDonald's. A NASCAR driver manages to get suspended, and the season isn't even going on right now. Okay, it's time to go for a walk. When we're in studio, it's a lot easier to do the walkover because we have wireless mics, but we're kind of all attached here, so just gonna...
Well, where are you going?
I picked up my newest hobby, Jay. This is my newest quarantine hobby. I make dice now. I'm trying to make the perfect dice. It's made out of wood. So,
Oh, that's kind of cool. I'm just showing you my, all I do on these walkovers, if you didn't get a chance to see our show last week, I just show off the toys in our basement, and that's just a little bit of a Thomas the Train track I was working on. It goes past that door, but I don't want you to see how messy it is past that door, so that's all you're gonna see. Little Thomas the Train action. There you go. Dan,
that's okay.
A NASCAR driver got suspended on Monday, and the NASCAR season's not even going on. What happened?
Yeah, that's Kyle Larson. He's been suspended indefinitely. Now, this follows use of a racial slur during Sunday's iRacing event. Larson has been suspended without pay. Will have to attend sensitivity training as directed by NASCAR. Larson, he has since apologized, and he did that on Twitter on Monday.
Yeah, I just want to say I'm sorry. You know, last night I made a mistake and said the word that should never, ever be said. And, you know, there's no excuse for that. You know, I wasn't raised that way. You know, it's just an awful thing to say. And I feel very sorry for my family, my friends, my partners, the NASCAR community, and especially the African-American community. You know, I understand the damage is probably unrepairable, and, you know, I own up to that. But I just wanted to let you all know how sorry I am. And, you know, I hope everybody is staying safe during these crazy times. Thank you.
Just an idiotic move by Larson, who's already lost sponsors.
It's just unbelievable, Dan, that in this day and age, and obviously you can guess what the racial slur was based on what he said in his apology. Just unbelievable that that he would say that in this situation or any situation. It's just, yeah, it's brutal. It's a very unfortunate thing. Dan, if I could segue though to a fascinating thing, I did not expect massive NFL contracts to be handed out throughout this entire coronavirus pandemic process. I thought that might just be, shelved for a bit. That's not necessarily true, Dan, because when you're as good as Christian McCaffrey, you're going to get paid no matter what.
That's right. According to Adam Schefter, the Carolina Panthers have signed running back Christian McCaffrey to a 4-year, $64 million contract extension, making him the highest paid running back in NFL history. McCaffrey, 19 touchdowns last season, led the NFL with almost 2,400 all-purpose yards. So he's going to average $16 million per year. That's pretty good. And I realized while I was doing that VO, I was talking rather quickly. I didn't realize how quickly I talk sometimes during the show until my daughters pointed it out because they listen to every show now.
Why, you talk very slowly at home around your daughters like this? Hey, girls.
I guess. I'm like, hey, girls, time for bed.
It's interesting because McCaffrey is such a unique player, right, Dan? 2,500 rushing yards, 2,500 receiving yards over his first 3 seasons. His first player to do that ever. He's such a dual threat, so you can see why they're going to pay him, because it seemed like running backs weren't going to get paid big money like that anymore, but he is a unique player. Dan, a very unfortunate situation over the weekend. Of course, Colby Cave passed away, Edmonton Oiler, 25 years old. Suffered a brain bleed last week, was placed in a medically induced coma at Sunnybrook Hospital in Toronto, and passed away on Saturday. And this is truly amazing. Check this out. Leading into the Battlefords in Saskatchewan, where Colby was from, a highway memorial planned to show their support after Colby's passing on Saturday. Drivers saluting the family of Colby Cave as they returned home from Toronto.
Jay and Dan's clothing provided by Indochino. Want to look as good as they do? Make your own custom suits, shirts, blazers, and chinos online or visit our nearest showroom.
Hey, it's time for Who Delivered, presented by McDelivery. April the 13th, 2016, the late Kobe Bryant puts on a show in his final NBA game, going off for 60 points in a Lakers win over the Jazz. It was his 6th 60-point game, and the first time in NBA history that it happened in a player's final game. On the court, Kobe always delivered. And speaking of delivering, I want to just thank Indochino for delivering our suits to us so that we could wear cool suits and shirts for you while we're hosting this show. And that leads us to a segment that will never end, no matter where we're doing the show. It's You Blew It. Dan, what did we mess up?
I forgot what the top 10 was. The top 10, it's essentially, longer this goes on, it's going to be like top 10 plays by human with face. And then your train track runs right into a door. So I think you blew it on the construction of that.
No, Dan, trust me. You open that door. All right, what you're going to see is a beautiful, elaborate rest of the train set past that. But that's for a future show. Dan, we've got a lot of shows to do and no sports to fill them with. So eventually the whole show is just going to be me playing with trains. And I got to be honest, I think it'll be pretty entertaining.
Hey, you got your trains, I got my dice.
Well, enjoy that dice, Dan. And thanks for watching. Take care.
Yep.